The first time I met Charles, it was a sunny summer afternoon. The kind that makes you wish for an endless winter. I was at the market searching for the ripest tomatoes when he approached me. Tall with chiseled features and a smile that could melt an iceberg, Charles seemed to appear out of nowhere, offering me the plumpest tomato from his own basket. "Here, this one's perfect," he said, his voice like velvet. From that moment, my life changed forever. Little did I know, this handsome stranger would become my worst nightmare. Charles and I fell in love quickly. It was a romance filled with moonlit walks and stolen kisses. He was everything I had ever dreamed of in a man, charming, attentive, and incredibly handsome. Friends and family adored him, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. Within 6 months, Charles proposed. The engagement ring was exquisite, a perfect reflection of our perfect relationship. We got married in a grand ceremony, surrounded by loved ones. The first few months of our marriage were blissful. We moved into a beautiful Victorian house on the outskirts of town. It was the house of my dreams, with its white picket fence, blooming garden, and spacious rooms filled with sunlight. But soon, small cracks began to appear in our perfect marriage. Charles started coming home late, his excuses flimsy and unconvincing. And sometimes he would go days without coming back home. His behavior shifted from loving to distant, and I often found myself alone in our big empty house. One night, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I found a lipstick-stained handkerchief in his jacket pocket. My heart sank, but I pushed the thought away, telling myself it was just a misunderstanding. Charles was my husband, my love. He would never betray me. It was a stormy night when I first heard the rumors. I was at a neighborhood gathering, making small talk with the other wives, when I overheard a hushed conversation about Charles' mistresses. I excused myself and hurried home, my mind racing with questions and doubts. When Charles came home that night, I confronted him. His response was chilling. He didn't deny the rumors. Instead, he laughed a cold, heartless laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "Do you really think you can leave me? You're nothing without me, Anna." From that night on, my life became a living nightmare. Charles's cruelty knew no bounds. He controlled every aspect of my life, isolating me from friends and family. He monitored my every move, making it clear that I belonged to him and him alone. The physical abuse started soon after. It began with a slap during an argument, then escalated to punches and kicks. I tried to hide the bruises, but it became impossible to conceal the pain and fear in my eyes. I felt trapped, suffocated by his oppressive presence. Now he wasn't ashamed of his mistresses. He would bring them home in my presence and pretend Elle wasn't there. Every day was a battle for survival, and I lived in constant terror of what he might do next. Elle came up with a plan for my escape. It was risky, but I had no other choice. Staying with Charles meant certain death. One cold, rainy night, I packed a small bag and slipped out of the house while Charles was out. My parents' house would have been the first place for him to look for me, so I made my way to my sister's house, who was abroad due to work. For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. But Charles was not a man to be trifled with. He found me within days, dragging me back to the house like a ragdoll. The punishment for my defiance was severe. He locked me in the room where I was left to rot in darkness. As I lay in the cold room, bruised and broken, I discovered something that changed everything. Hidden among the clutter, I found a stack of letters from Charles's past. The letters revealed a sinister truth. Charles was not just a womanizer, he was a murderer. His previous wives had all met tragic ends, their deaths ruled as accidents or suicides. One of the letters was begging Charles to come back to his wife and children in the village. He had fooled everyone, but now, I had the evidence to expose him. With renewed determination, I plotted my escape. I knew it would be my last chance. The night of my escape was filled with tension. I waited until Charles was drunk, then sweet-talked him, promising him I was going to be a good wife and Elle will do everything he says Elle should. Charles was convinced and let me out of the cold room. While Charles was asleep, Elle quietly slipped out of the house. I took the letters with me and ran in the dark night to the nearest police station. Charles was arrested, and the investigation revealed that Charles would murder his wives for funeral insurance money. The insurance money usually came in millions. This meant that sooner or later I was next. Explaining why he was able to afford that luxurious lifestyle. He was sentenced to life in prison, but the damage he had done to me was irreparable. I moved out of his house because Elle didn't want to live in a house bought with blood money. Life after Charles was a struggle. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up, piece by piece. The trauma of his abuse left deep scars. My name is Anna, and I am a survivor. This is my story, a tale of love and betrayal. A story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of hope.